We are about to get underway here back in Danville, Virginia, here inside the E. Stewart James Grant Center here in Danville, Virginia, on the North Campus of Averett University. Here between the visiting Bridgewater Eagles and the visiting Warren Wilson Owls. As Warren Wilson comes in to play their first match of the day against the second match of the day here for Bridgewater. William Wilson comes into today's match sitting at 2-7, having won their last game against Milligan University during that tri-match. The last two games of their season, at least that they had, were canceled, so they come into today's game fully rested, looking to get back in the win column here today. Bridgewater here just played and beat Averett in a grudge match, three sets to two, as it came down to the last few points here in the Grand Center. But we're going to get started here after the starting lineups here in the Grand Center. We're gonna look at the first visiting here, at least the visiting team for this match. Looking at Bridgewater, it'll be number 1, Provost, number 3, Vizcaitis, number 9, Kayer, number 12, Weaver, number 13, Green, number 15, Williams, and number 22 is Hugh. The starters looking at Warren Wilson. This will be number 1, Steve Moody, number 4, William Bush, number 5, Kyan Ivy, number 8, Tucker Jeffrey, number 9, Gabriel Fry, and number 11, Leighton Stark. So we are about to get underway here back in the Grand Center for the second match of today's tri-match between the Warren Wilson Owls and the Eagles of Bridgewater. And here we go. Warren Wilson on the left side of your screen in white, and no libero, as they are without one of their players for today's game. And Bridgewater on the right side of your screens if you're sitting at home watching this, with Bridgewater in their black with red piping on the front of the jersey and the Eagle logo on the front right above their numbers. It will be Warren Wilson to start out this one, as there'll be Ivy here to step back and take the serve. As our crew is looking over something, making sure that everything is correct. And it'll be Ivy step back to take the serve here for Warren Wilson. Ivy goes over the board to Provost. As Weaver unable to come up with it over the net, and Warren Wilson will come up with the first point of the day. So Ivy gets another chance as that one goes over the line, and Bridgewater ties this one up. It'll be Seth Williams here back for the serve as they'll get over to Warren Wilson. Back over the net as Weaver can't quite bring that one down as he has two mishaps so far in the first set. So Warren Wilson with a 2-1 lead here so far over the Eagles of Bridgewater, who just beat the Cougars here in the first match. As it'll come down to number 9, that's Farai, as he will go off the hands of Farai, and that kill, and the point goes to Bridgewater. I have to say, something unique is happening that I've never seen with the team, where Bridgewater is trying to distract the other team when it comes to other team's serves by doing different things. The latest was jumping jacks, as that one is off the hands of Duel, and that one will give the point over to Warren Wilson. This one is I'm a Shark, as I'm laughing at over here in the booth, as that one stays in. As that one goes over the line for Moody. Back over the line, as that one will drop right in front of Farai. So back to take the serve is Bridgewater and number 12, Weaver. As that one will go way over the head of Warren Wilson. So they'll be back here for the serve. And it'll be number 11 here for Warren Wilson for the serve. That's Stark. As that one stays in, and it'll be another point here for Bridgewater. So he will check out here. So it'll be Green here to start it out. As that one go off the net, off of number 4, Bush. As that one goes off of Isaiah White. And he'll tie this one up all at 5. As Bridgewater brings this first set to a tie at 5 points apiece. So Green will come over the net. And that'll be off the hands of Jeffrey, as he was not quite able to bring that one down. As Warren Wilson comes up with that one, as it goes over the net, over to Viscaidis, as Moody got his hands on that one, as Bridgewater now takes a 2-point lead. And it'll be Green here back to serve with Bridgewater up by a score of 7-5. Green Gets over to Bush. As that one will land out of bounds, and it'll be off of Bush. Green goes over the net to Bush as a quick swipe and gets a quick point here for Warren Wilson as number 5, Ivy. Referring to number 5 as Kyan Ivy. So Bush will be the one to serve it away here as they get over to Duel. Back to Vizcayetis as a strong attack and a strong kill comes here from Seth Williams as he puts up Bridgewater to a 3-point lead here in the Grant Center. Vizcayetis on the serve. As that one lands out of bounds, and it'll be off of Jeffrey. Over the head of, that's Stark. Ivy. Back to Hugh, back to White. Over to Stark. As that one goes way out of bounds and off the hands of Jeffrey. Sorry, that was Farai. So Warren Wilson wants to talk it over after going down by 4 points. As Bridgewater comes and takes a 11-6 lead here in the first set of the second match. We're going to take a quick break here on the Averett Sports Network, and we'll be right back in just a minute after the timeout. And it'll be Vizcayetis here for Bridgewater back for the serve. Vizcayetis gets it over off the hands and it's saved by Moody, but it goes out of bounds. So Bridgewater will expand their lead here to 12-6. As Vizcayetis for the serve. Off the hands of Jeffrey. Over to Vizcayetis. As that one comes off the hands of Bush. Over to Moody. As that one lands in the hands of Vizcayetis. Over to Williams. Over to White, who bumps over the net. Over to Stark. Over to Ivy. As that one goes long and off the hands of Farai. So Vizcayetis gets his third straight serve here. Vizcayetis goes way out of bounds. And it'll be a point now finally in about 3 or 4 minutes over to Warren Wilson. So the first set in 4 or 5 points goes to Jeffrey as Jeffrey will serve it into the net and will give the point back to Bridgewater. And it'll be number 1 here for Bridgewater. That's Prevost, as Moody's right there at the net. As Bridgewater will give Warren Wilson back a point. So it'll be Ivy here for the serve. Ivy goes over the net to Hugh, over to Vizcaitis. Over to Jeffrey, over to Moody, over to Ivy, who serves it for Stark. Stark's shot lands inbounds. So a nice shot here from Stark brings the Bridgewater lead 1 point fewer. 14-9 is the score now. Ivy off the hands of Hugh, over to Prevost, over to Kayer. That was a strong shot off the hands of Stark, and he's met by the Eagles on the near side, as Warren Wilson will pick up the point, as they'll continue to fight back, as they are now only down by 4 points. Ivy over the net, off of Prevost, off the hands of Kayer, over to Stark, over to Ivy, back over to Stark, and it's the last touch by Weaver. And he can't quite bring it down, so it'll be a 3-point deficit now for Warren Wilson, and they'll continue to have the momentum. Ivy over the net to Hugh, over to Vizcaitis. The big block lands inbounds off of Moody and Stark. As the ref had to hold off the taunting, as they have now cut the lead to just 2, as that serve will go off of Prevost and Hugh. Over the net is Weaver, back to Bush, over to Ivy off the hands of Hugh, and then a point will go towards Bridgewater. As the referee says double tap. So Bridgewater now goes up by 3 by a score of 15-12 in the first set. Prevost over the net. It's not Prevost, but that's Williams, Seth Williams, that went way over the net and way over the back line. So that brings the Warren Wilson deficit to just 2. More barking here from Bridgewater, as that one goes way over and off the hands of Farai. As the score now expands to 16-13 in favor of Bridgewater. As it'll be Duel back to take the serve. As Bush will find that one. Over to Ivy, back to Bush. Big block here from Green. Back to Stark, and Stark finds the point for Warren Wilson. So it'll be Moody here back to take the serve. More distractions here from Bridgewater, as they just do not let up on the distractions. As a little tap from Weaver goes right over the net and falls right in front of Moody, as he can't bring that one back. And it'll be 17-14 in favor of Bridgewater. Weaver on the serve. Weaver gets it over to Bush, over to Ivy, who gets it back over to Bush. Bush out to the far corner. Off the hands of Duel. Over to Stark. Sets up by Ivy. Over to Stark. As that one goes into the net off of Vizcaitis. So a timeout will be called by Bridgewater. And we'll go to the break here on the Averett Sports Network, and we'll be right back in just a minute after the timeout. And welcome back to the Averett Sports Network. If you're just joining us, hi, I'm Wyatt Acapulco. Glad to be here with you here in this middle of this second match and the first set of so between the Owls of Warren Wilson College and the Bridgewater Eagles of Bridgewater College. Stark goes over the net to the Eagles, over to Duell. Finds in the hands of White, and a big block here from Ivy. Lands in bounds. And it will now only be a 1-point deficit here for the Owls as they continue to not give up. So Stark goes over the net on the serve, over to Duell, finds Vizcaítas. Back to White as Moody can't quite save it. As it'll be now a 2-point lead here for Bridgewater. Green on the serve, over to Bush, finds Ivy on the set, as a big block goes out of bounds and off the hands of Bridgewater. So Warren Wilson finds themselves yet only a point out of tying this one up with Bridgewater. Bush goes over to Duell, finds Vizcaítas, a little tap from Williams, lands right in front of the Warren Wilson offense, or say defense, as Warren Wilson now find themselves down 2 points. Vizcaítas on the serve, over to Stark, over to Ivy. Ivy's quick swipe can't quite be handled, and the Owls find themselves again within a point. And it'll be Jeffrey here back for the serve for the Owls. Jeffrey, and it'll be off the hands of Kayer. And we now have a tied ball game here in the first set of 3. So it'll be Jeffrey back here for the serve, and which is actually a big serve here for Warren Wilson. As that one goes wrong off the hands of Jeffrey. So Bridgewater will get the lead back here by 1 by a score of 20-19 here over the Owls. Over the net goes Vizcaítas as the Owls are right there. Prevost is right there for the Eagles. Stark is right there. Ivy over to Fry. As Fry can't quite keep it in bounds. So Bridgewater now find themselves up by 2. As that one goes out of bounds. It'll be off the hands of Prevost. So it'll be Ivy here for the serve as he'll get over to Prevost, over to Vizcaítas, back over to Weaver. It'll be off the hands of Jeffrey, off the hands of Ivy as that one isn't called. It'll be Vizcaítas back over the net to Bush, over to Ivy. As it'll be off the head of Prevost. It'll go out of bounds as Warren Wilson will now have tied this game up again. Warren Wilson right here competing with Bridgewater. Ivy goes over the net and goes out of bounds. And so, again, goes down by a point. As Bridgewater gives that point right back, with Williams going right into the net. Fry now gives a point right back to Bridgewater, as Bridgewater now goes up by 1. As Jackson McKnight will check out now here for Bridgewater, and we'll get a breather. With Duel here back for the serve. Duel gets it over to Jeffrey, finds Ivy on the set, over to Stark, over to Prevost, back over to Weaver, a big block by Stark, and Moody finds Bush at the net, finds Moody, over to Bridgewater, and that one goes out of bounds. So Warren Wilson sticking right here with Bridgewater, as this one, again, is now all knotted up at 23. Moody on the serve, over to Hugh, over to Vizcaitis, over to Weaver as Weaver taps it. Jeffrey right there from Moody, over to Ivy. Back corner goes Bridgewater. Over to Ivy, sets it for Stark, as Stark gets a kill and puts Warren Wilson back in front. As Bridgewater wants to talk it over as they want a timeout. We'll be right back here on the Averett Sports Network with the conclusion of this first set of 3. So with Warren Wilson with set point, as Moody will step back, take the serve. He'll get it over to Duel, finds Vizcaitis, back over to Weaver as Weaver's shot goes to the back line but stays in, and he ties this one up at 24. So a back and forth affair here for both teams, as Weaver will step back, take the serve here for Bridgewater, as Bush sets it for Ivy, as it'll be off the hands of Bridgewater, and Warren Wilson will be back in front. Now, the only rule with volleyball is that if you're tied up at 24 in the first set, it's always win by 2. So Stark here back for the serve. He'll get it to Prevost. Prevost sets it up over to Bush, over to Ivy, as Ivy's shot wins it for Warren Wilson. As that shot stays in, it'll be off the hands of the Eagles, as Warren Wilson will take the first set of this one, as we'll go to the break here on the Averett Sports Network, and we'll come back here in just a minute for the start of set set number 2. Second set of the starting 3 here in the Grand Center here in Danville, Virginia, on the campus of Averett University. Here is they host today's tri-match between them, Warren Wilson College, and Bridgewater College. As the libero for Bridgewater checks in, it'll be 22, which will be Davian Hugh. So it'll be number 5 here for Bridgewater, making his first appearance. That's Joshua Krogstad, the freshman out of Kiwana, the British Columbia. As that one will go out of bounds and it'll be off the hands of Warren Wilson. So it'll be the first point of the second set goes for Bridgewater. Kilstad. Over to Ivy, over to Hugh. Back over to Kilstad. Finds Provost. Dug out by Fry. Back over to Kilstad. Shot off of Stark. Over to Hugh. Finds Kilstad. As the next shot goes off of War Weaver, and this one stays in. As 3 times the charm, or say third time's the charm is the destiny for Bridgewater, as the third shot from Bridgewater goes. Ivy over to Stark. over to Kilstad, over to Prevost, and it'll be off the hands of Fry. So Warren Wilson will start the second set and a 3-0 deficit to Bridgewater. Kilstad over the net to Stark, over to Ivy. Finds Fry, big block by the Eagles, and part of Weaver and White. As Bridgewater now expands their lead to 4-0 here in the second set. Kilstad goes over the net to Fry, over to Ivy, who sets it for Moody. Gets off the hands of Kilstad, over to Weaver. Finds Prevost. Finds Bush, over to Ivy. Back over to Fry, who taps it over. Over to Kilstad, over to White, as White keeps it in. White puts his team up by 5 points now. And keeping the shutout going over the Owls. As Kilstad goes over the net to Fry, as Fry goes out of bounds and into the hands of one of our graduate assistants, Tyler. As Warren Wilson wants a timeout, they'll talk it over. So we're going to go to the break here on the Averett Sports Network and take it with them. We'll be right back here in just a moment. The continuation here of the second set with Bridgewater up over the Owls of Warren Wilson College by 6 points. As Stark goes into it, and he'll get the first point and end the shutout here for the Owls. So it'll be Ivy's first serve of the second set. Ivy goes over the net. That's McKnight. Over to Ivy. Over to Fry. McKnight right there as Prevost digs that one out. Over to Hugh. Over to Stark. Over to Ivy. And it'll be off the hands of Bridgewater as Bridgewater will get a point. Prevost, over to Bush, over to Ivy, over to Stark, as Stark goes way long as that one was heard from a mile away. That was a shot that was shot out of a cannon. So Warren Wilson now deepens their deficit now by 7 points. As Bridgewater takes an 8-1 lead here in the second set. As Prevost on the serve finds Bush, as Bush can't quite handle it. So Warren Wilson now down by a score of 9-1. Prevost over to Stark, over to Ivy, back to Stark, over to Hugh, over to Stilgrad, over to White, and it's bumped out off of Ivy. And the Owls suddenly can't find anything, and they have gone completely cold. Prevost over the net to Bush, over to Ivy. As Bridgewater will continue their streak. Prevost over the net goes to Stark, over to Ivy, who sets it for Stark. Stark is met by a big block for Bridgewater. As Warren Wilson ends their drought and finally gets a point back on the board. So Fry will be back here for the serve. Gets over to Ivy, over to Jeffrey. Finds Stark as he's met at the net. And it'll be off the hands of McKnight. And Warren Wilson gets another point back as they try to shift the momentum. Fry gets over McKnight. As the shot is off of Weaver. As that was an absolute cannonball. As Jeffrey just could not hang on. And it'll be White here for the serve. He'll get over to Jeffrey. Finds Ivy. Backward to Stark. It'll be off the hands of Prevost, and he hangs on. As a great dig is there off the hands of Prevost. As McKnight on the shot, and he'll get another point here for Bridgewater. Bridgewater now up by a commanding 10-point lead here over Warren Wilson. As White serves it into the net, and the Owls get a point back. As White will check out here for Bridgewater, he'll take a seat. It'll be Moody here to serve it away. As he'll find Prevost over to Stilgrad, over to Weaver as that one goes off Jeffrey into the net and goes out of bounds, and the Eagles will bring the deficit for Warren Wilson back to 10. As Weaver goes over the net to Bush. Finds Ivy on the set. Over to Bush on the tip. Over to Green, as Green just absolutely puts that one away, as there was nothing that Warren Wilson could do about that one. Weaver goes over the net to Bush. Finds Ivy. Over the net is Stark. Tipped by Stalgrad. Over to Ivy. Back to Stark. Off the hands of Prevost. Back to Stilgrad. Off the hands of McKnight. And off the hands of Stark and Jeffrey. As they can't keep that one in bounds. As Warren Wilson wants to talk it over. They're going to go to another timeout. So we'll bring it back here on broadcast here in just a moment after the timeout. Back here on the Averett Sports Network. As Weaver will be over for the service. That one goes straight into the ground for the ace. As Bush just could not get there. As Weaver will get back over to Bush over the net, tipped by Ivy. Over to Stark, who saves it. Back to Bush, over to Hugh. Over to Stilgrad. As a long ball goes off the hands of McKnight and goes way out of bounds. And it will bring the score here in the Grant Center to 17-5. Still in favor of Bridgewater as they have gone up now by 12 points. McKnight right there for Stilgrad. Back to McKnight as McKnight on another shot goes way out of bounds. As McKnight will stay out there for Bridgewater. As that one must have gone off the hands of Warren Wilson because that brings the Bridgewater score to 18-6. So it'll be Bush back here to take the serve. Bush gets it over the net to McKnight. Back to Stilgrad. Over to Green. Over to Bush. Finds Ivy. Back to Fry. Over to Ivy. Sets it for Stark. Sets it by Weaver. Over to Bush. Back to Moody. Finds Stark back over the net. Set by Stilgrad. Prevost came down with that one. Over to Bush. Back over to Ivy. As that one goes out of bounds off the hands of Fry. And it is all Bridgewater in the second set. Green serves it over the net for Stark. Over to Ivy. Sets it for Fry as Fry can't quite get that one over the net. As that'll bring Bridgewater's total to 20. As they are 5 points away from set point and tying this one up at 1 set apiece. Bridgewater over the net to Stark. Over to Ivy as Ivy with a quick swipe. As a yellow card has been given to Warren Wilson. As the referee blows his whistle. And we are back to play here. As that one goes over the net for Stark. Over to Ivy. Back to Fry. Over to Weaver. As a point now will be given back to Warren Wilson. So it'll be Jeffrey here to serve it away here for Warren Wilson. That one goes over the net as Moody is right there. And Bridgewater somehow kept that one in bounds as they are now 3 points away from taking this second set. Sorry, and that's not Stilgrad, it's Krogstad. As Krogstad goes way out of bounds. Over the net, it goes Ivy. Back to Weaver. It'll be off of Ivy. And it'll be another point here for Bridgewater. That'll bring Bridgewater's total to 23. With the score being 23-8. Prevost over there to Bush. Set by Ivy. Back to Stark as it goes off the hands of Hugh. As that'll be a point back for Warren Wilson. And it'll be Fry back here to serve. Fry goes over the net to Prevost. And it'll be off the head of Prevost as he falls down, trying to avoid that one, but it goes off his head. As all of a sudden it feels like that the air conditioning has kicked on here at here in the Grand Center. As Fry goes over the line, all of the back line. So set point here for Bridgewater. As there'll be Isaiah White here for the serve. White goes over to Fry, over to Ivy. Back to Bush as a big block from Green puts that one away for Bridgewater. As they win the second set of this one, and they tie the overall match score at 1 set apiece. And we'll step aside, and we'll be back here for the third set here on the Averett Sports Network. Set number 3 about to get underway as the two teams have switched sides. This time, Bridgewater on the right side of your screen, back on their original bench. And Warren Wilson back on the left side of your screens if you're watching from home. And if you are watching from home, and if you have been with us since the start of the very first match, hi, I'm Wyatt Ockpole. Again, glad to be here with you for this one, as this has been a fun day so far, as both matches so far have been fairly actually exciting, as Ivy will get it over that to Krogstad. Back over the net goes Prevost, as the first point of the third set will go to Warren Wilson. Like I said, glad to be here on the broadcast with you if you are watching from home here on Flow College Sports. And hello to the folks here on Flow College Sports who have heard my voice before. Glad to be here for today's tri-match. As Bush goes on to the far side corner, as that one will stay in, and they'll take a 2-0 lead. As Ivy will go over to Prevost, as Prevost bump will hit the net, and it'll be a 3-0 lead here for Warren Wilson, as Ivy will step back, take the serve here for the Owls. As Ivy's serve will go into the net, and the shutout is no longer, as Bridgewater gets their first point of the set. As Prevost goes over to Bush, over to Moody. Right there is Ivy. As that one will go long, it'll be off the hands of the Owls. Off the fingertips, says the referees, and it'll be a 3-2 lead here for Warren Wilson, as Bridgewater has started to climb their way back into this one, but now ties it all up at 3. So Bridgewater quickly comes back from a 3-0 deficit to tie this one up at 3 apiece, as Prevost will be back here for the serve. As Ivy will set that one for Stark, as Stark shoots it long. Leighton Stark with the missile over to the near side corner. As Stark puts the Owls back up ahead, as it will be Bush here for the serve. Bush finds McKnight over to Krogstad, as that was another missile, but off the hands this time of Weaver for Bridgewater, as Bridgewater ties this one up again at 4. So competitive ball game here from both teams. As White will be back here for the serve, as that one will go long off the hands of White. As that one will go into the net off the hands of Moody for Warren Wilson. As this one is now again all tied up at 5. So it'll be a long serve here for Weaver, as he can't keep that one in. As that one goes into the net and off the hands of Stark. So back and forth here again we go. As once each team gets out to a 1-point lead, it automatically gets tied up again. So 6 points is the tie. As Stark is right there and he goes long. So another 1 point lead here for Bridgewater. It's 7-6. Ivy over to Fry, finds Weaver, over to Krogstad, back to Prevost, dug out by Fry, over to Ivy, hit by Stark, back to Krogstad, and it's a kill for Green. As McKnight finds himself in the back as the Eagles have now taken a 2 point lead, and the streak of 1 point in tie is now back again, but Ivy puts that one away for Warren Wilson right in front of the Bridgewater defense, as they now cut the lead down to just one, and one away from tying this one up at 8. As that one goes off the hands of Fry, over to Krogstad. Over to Ivy. Ivy keeps that one over to McKnight. Over to Hugh. Over to Stark. Ivy's right there. And it'll be a kill for Ivy. As that one goes off the hands of Hugh, finds Prevost, back to Weaver, over to Green, Bush is there, Weaver digs that one out, off the hands of Krogstad, and it'll be a point going towards Bridgewater. And it'll be a serve for Green here on the near side, as Bridgewater now up by 1 point here over Warren Wilson here in the third set. As Bush can't quite find that one, and it'll be now a 2 point lead here by a score of 10-8 over Warren Wilson. As that one is bumped by Moody, who finds Ivy, back to Bush. As Ivy puts that one away for Warren Wilson. A very competitive ball game here in the Grant Center, as Warren Wilson again is right here competing with Bridgewater. As neither team can quite pull away. As Jeffrey will find McKnight over to Krogstad, who sets it for White, but a big cannon shot. As Bush is right there for the save. Over to Hugh. Tipped by Prevost. Back to Ivy as that block goes out of bounds. And it'll be a tied ball game here at 10. So it'll be Jeffrey here on the serve. As Jeffrey's serve goes out of bounds. And once again, it'll be a 1 point and tie affair. As Bridgewater comes down to Fry, over to Ivy. Finds Stark. It'll be off the hands of Prevost. And it'll be another point here for Warren Wilson. As Ivy is right there on the service. Ivy's serve goes long. So back and forth affair. Here we go. 12-11 is your score. As Bush finds Ivy on the set. Back to Stark as both teams are tipped at the net. And a reach over is the call. As we are now all tied up again here at 12. Bush over the net to Prevost, as that one goes out of bounds, as Warren Wilson now takes a 1-point lead. Bush on the serve, bumped by Provost, set by Krogstad. It'll be off the hands of White, and it'll now be a 2-point lead for Warren Wilson. It'll be Bush on the serve. Over to Prevost, back to Krogstad, back to Weaver off the hands of Jeffrey, over to Ivy, over to Stark, and it'll be off the hands of Hugh. And we're seeing a shift of momentum, as it'll be a 3-point lead for Warren Wilson, and Bridgewater wants to talk it over. So we'll be back here on the Averett Sports Network just out of the timeout. Back here in the Grant Center here on the Averett Sports Network, as Warren Wilson is taking a 3-point lead, as Hugh is right there for Bush to save it. Over to Ivy, finds Fry on the tip, over to Hugh who digs it out, over to Krogstad, over to Provost, as the shot by Provost goes just off the back line. As Krogstad is right there for Weaver, as Weaver gets the point back here for Bridgewater. As Backer is back in for Bridgewater. It'll be Weaver over to Green. Back over to Weaver, who tips it over to Jeffrey off the hands of the Owls, as that won't go out of bounds. And the momentum is starting to shift back to Bridgewater, as Bridgewater has gotten 2 straight points here, as Warren Wilson still leads the third set 16-14. As Backer is there for the serve, over to Ivy, over to Fry, as Fry's shot goes into the net. And Bridgewater has cut the lead down to just 1. As a shot goes off of Backer over to Ivy, off of Backer, Over to Weaver. Over to Green as Green's shot goes way long. And it'll be another point here for Warren Wilson. Krogstad over to Green, and it'll be off the hands of Moody. And Bridgewater again find themselves a point out from the Warren Wilson tie. Weaver off the hands of Warren Wilson. And now find themselves all tied up here at 17 and have come all the way back. Weaver over on the serve, over to Fry, set by Ivy, over to Stark, off the hands of Hugh, over to Krogstad, over to McKnight, off the hands of McKnight again. Off of Prevost, who's come to the other side of the net to find that one. As Stark thought he had the kill and thought it stayed inbounds, but apparently landed just off of the line. So Bridgewater now goes back up by 1 point by a score of 18-17. Ivy over to Stark. A big block here from McKnight, but goes out of bounds. Stark will get the serve. He'll find Prevost. As Green flies above the net for that kill. So Bridgewater takes back a 1 point lead, and the score is 19-18 in favor of Bridgewater. And McKnight will find the serve over to Fry. Set for McKnight, for Fry, as they come back and tie this one up again. Fry on the serve as that one goes into the net. So Fry gives the Eagles a 1 point lead here, 20-19. As Green will be back to serve here for Bridgewater as that one will go long. And this one is tied up again. Jeffrey over to Prevost, set by White and Krogstad. And Warren Wilson is right there at the net. As a double tap from Warren Wilson gives Bridgewater a 1 point lead here again, 21-20. It'll be Krogstad back for the serve, the freshman out of the British Columbia. As Ivy quickly taps it over the net, over to Hugh, over to Prevost, over to Weaver, and the double tap by Bridgewater ties this one up for Warren Wilson. as Ivy goes over the net and goes way out of bounds. As Bridgewater goes up by a score of 22-21. As that one goes long. And we're tied up again at 22. Bush back here for the serve. Finds Prevost back to Krogstad, who sets it for Weaver. As that point lands in, which was a beautiful set by Krogstad, gives the Eagles another point here as they now lead again 23-22. Backer back for the serve over to Jeffrey, over to Bush, over to Stark, set by Krogstad as that point lands in. As McKnight with a beautiful kill puts Bridgewater ahead by 2 with a chance to put this one away and take a 2-1 set lead here in the Grant Center. Backer for the serve over to Ivy. Finds Stark as Weaver runs it down. As that one goes off the scoreboard. Oh my God. This is what a low roof does to you, folks. Not having a whole ton of room for a play like that where the ball goes off the scoreboard. If you look at this arena, if you're watching from home, the ceiling is really lower than everyone thinks. As Bridgewater gets the point and will take this third set 25-23. As the refs are talking it over. As Bridgewater takes the third set 25-23. It'll come down to this fourth set here in Danville. We're going to step aside here for a minute, and then we'll come back with the fourth set. Back here on the Averett Sports Network for the start of the fourth set here in Danville, as Green will check out here for Bridgewater, as Hugh, the libero, will check back in. So Warren Wilson will look to tie this one up at 2 sets apiece, as well as Bridgewater looking to end this one right here and now here in the fourth set, as Ivy is right there for Warren Wilson, as Hugh finds it out of bounds. Back to Weaver, over to Stark, finds Ivy, over to Bush over to Hugh, as Ivy was right there. It'll be off the hands of Bridgewater, and it'll stay in bounds. As Krogstad is back for the serve, who finds Bush over to Ivy, over to Moody, who finds Krogstad, over to Hugh, over to Weaver. Weaver gets it himself. Back over to Prevost, over to Fry. Ivy right there for the tip. Back to Moody for the dig. Over to Hugh. Back to Prevost, and it'll be off the hands of Jeffrey. And the first 2 points of the fourth set have gone to Bridgewater. Krogstad goes long, as Warren Wilson will get a point back. Ivy on the serve, over to Krogstad, over to Weaver, finds Fry, as it lands right in front of Hugh, as Hugh misplays that one, as that'll tie this one up at 2 apiece. Ivy, as it'll be off the hands of Hugh again, as he misplays a couple in a row, as Hugh gives the Owls a 1-point lead. Ivy finds Hugh, back over to Krogstad, as Williams is right there, as it lands in bounds right in front of Warren Wilson. So Bridgewater comes back and ties this one up at 3. As that one goes long, and it'll be a Warren Wilson 1-point lead. Back go the Eagles. It'll be off the hands of Ivy. Over to Stark. Over McKnight. A good tip there by the Owls. Gives the Owls the point. So it'll be a 5-3 lead here for Warren Wilson. As the referee is still talking over with the head coach for Bridgewater, as he continues to argue with the referee. As we'll continue play here after the head coach for Bridgewater backs down. That's Coach Colton Frey. As that one goes towards Warren Wilson, as they have now taken a 3-point lead. Bush on the serve, goes over the head of Hugh. So Bridgewater will get a point back. Backer over to Jeffrey. Finds Fry over to Stark. A good block here by Bridgewater. Lands right in front of Jeffrey. So, being down by 3 points, Bridgewater now cuts it to just 1. So it'll be Backer here for the serve. It'll be Bush over to Ivy. Back to Fry, over to McKnight, over to Krogstad, over to Weaver as Bridgewater gives Warren Wilson a 2-point lead. Moody goes over the net. It'll be off of McKnight. Over to Krogstad. Sets up for Green, but he's blocked. Good tip. Goes into the net, and McKnight can't hold on. And Warren Wilson takes back a 3-point lead. As Moody goes into the net, and it'll be a point here for Bridgewater. It'll be Weaver here back for the serve. As that one goes into the arms of Bush. Over to Ivy, over to Stark. Off the hands of Krogstad. Off the hands of Provost. Over to Bush. Back over to Ivy, who sets it up for Jeffrey. And a big block from Green. As he puts that one away for Bridgewater and cuts the lead of Warren Wilson to just 1. As the score is now 8-7 in favor of the Owls. As that one goes off the hands of Warren Wilson and Fry. So Bridgewater comes back to tie it up. And it'll be Weaver here for Bridgewater to serve it away. It'll be off the top of the net, over to Fry. Saved by Ivy, and it'll be off the hands of Bridgewater as Warren Wilson now retakes a 1-point lead. As McKnight is right there, but it'll be off the hands of McKnight last, and it'll be another point for Warren Wilson. Over the head of the Eagles, and there'll be another point here for Warren Wilson. As McKnight will check out here. And it'll be the first minutes here for Jovan. For Jovan Lapera. Or is it Jovan Lapera? As Provost is right there. Ivy. Over to Fry. Over to Green. Back over to Krogstad. Over to Lapera. Over to Hugh. Hugh digs it out. And that one will land out of bounds. Warren Wilson has come out here in the fourth set and taken a 12-8 lead here so far. And on a 4-point streak. Krogstad over to Weaver as Weaver will strike it off the hands of Fry. That'll be LaPera here back for the serve. Over to Ivy. Ivy tips over to Hugh. Hugh digs it out. Over to Krogstad. As Weaver goes into the net. And can't quite get that one back over. So a serve here from Fry over to Krogstad, over to Prevost, finds Moody, back to Prevost. His Prevost's shot goes long, and the Owls will go up by a score of 14-9. Fry on the serve, gets it over to Hugh. Over to Krogstad off the hands of Green. Over to Fry. Back over the net. Goes Ivy. Over to Hugh. Over to Krogstad. Sets up for Green. As Green's shot stays in and hits the back near side corner. Green starts it out here for Bridgewater. Ivy saves it for Jeffrey. Over to Krogstad, over to Prevost, off of Jeffrey, off the hands of Jeffrey as that one stays in and bounces right in front of the Owl defense. So Bridgewater pulls to within 3 of the Warren Wilson lead. Green goes over to Stark, over to Ivy, over to Bush as Bush's tip shot lands in. As we'll come to a timeout here on the Averett Sports Network. We're gonna head it with them. We're gonna be back here on the Averett Sports Network in just a moment after the timeout. (15-11) is your score so far here throughout the fourth set here in this one between the Warren Wilson Owls and the Bridgewater Eagles. As Jeffrey's serve goes into the net, and Bridgewater now cuts the Warren Wilson lead down to just 3. Krogstad on the serve. Over to Stark, over to Ivy, sets up for Moody as Hughes' shot goes underneath the net and can't quite get it up over the net as Warren Wilson will take a 4-point lead. Ivy. Over to Hugh, back over to Weaver, over to Fry, over to Ivy. Back to Stark, who hits it off top of the net. Over to Krogstad, over to Weaver, who tips it over to Jeffrey, as Jeffrey's tip can't quite stay in bounds. 16-13 is your score now here in Danville in the Grant Center. So it'll be Prevost back here for the service. He'll get over to Bush on the set. Back to Ivy for the set. As that one didn't quite get over for Bush. So Bridgewater now cuts the lead to just 2. Prevost, over the net to Fry, over to Ivy, back over to Stark. As that one goes off of Hugh. Over to Hugh. Back to Weaver. Tipped by Jeffrey. Tipped by Williams as that one stays in bounds. And it'll be off the hands of Fry. So it'll be Backer here to serve it away here for the Eagles as he tries to will his team back to a tie. Green tipped by Moody. Over to Fry, who saves over to Prevost. Set by Krogstad. Big block by Warren Wilson. Over to Green, over to Jeffrey, back to Moody. Set by LaPera. Over to Jeffrey. Over to Backer. Back over to LaPera. As LaPera's strike goes out of bounds. So Backer and Williams will check out here for Bridgewater. As Moody will serve it over the net to Hugh. As that one lands in front of Bridgewater. As Bridgewater wants to talk it over. So Bridgewater takes a timeout, and we'll be right back here on the Averett Sports Network after that. Moody back here for the serve as he'll find LaPera. Back over to Krogstad as Weaver hits that one inside the near backside corner. As they'll bring this deficit to just within 3. So it'll be Weaver back here for the service. Fry will be right there. Back over to the Owls, over to Hugh. Back over to LaPera. Over to Fry, over to Stark. Stark off his hands. As Ivy tried to save it. And it'll go out of bounds off of Ivy. So Bridgewater brings the lead to just 2. Weaver over to Bush. Back over that to LaPera, over to Provost. Back to Stark, over to Ivy. Back to Stark on the tip, over the green. Step by Krogstad, and another point will go for the Owls. So Stark will go over the net to LaPera. Back from that to Krogstad with green. Ivy tapes it around. As that will go out of bounds off of Ivy. And Bridgewater pulls back to within 2. LaPera back for the serve, finds Bush. Back to Ivy as Ivy's quick swipe goes over the net and lands in bounds right in front of the Bridgewater defense. So Warren Wilson goes up by 3 again with a chance to end the set and go to a sudden death 5th set as that one goes off the hands of Warren Wilson. And Bridgewater pulls to within 2. So Green will serve it away here for Bridgewater. Finds Bush, over to Ivy, over to Jeffrey. Dug out by Bridgewater. Over the net. Back goes Ivy. Ivy tips it for himself over to Stark. Finds Bush, back over to LaPera. Over to Krogstad. It'll be off the net. And it'll be Warren Wilson's point. And it'll be a timeout here for Warren Wilson. We'll be right back here on the Averett Sports Network. Back after a couple of back-to-back timeouts for Warren Wilson, as Jeffrey will be back to take the serve with a 3-point lead for Warren Wilson, as Bridgewater continues to try to distract, as Williams is right there for Stark, gets over to Bush, back to Prevost, as that one is tipped around by Moody, back to Bush, Ivy on the strike, as that one falls, and Ivy gives the Owls a legitimate chance to take this set. Jeffrey over the net goes to Prevost, set by Krogstad, and nice setup for a strike to the other side by Williams, as Bridgewater pulls within 3, making the score 23-20. Krogstad over to Stark, over to Ivy, over to Hugh, over to LaPera, back to Prevost, over to Ivy, back to Bush, over to Hugh, over to Krogstad, over to LaPera, over to Ivy, back to Stark. As a good block there from Bridgewater gives the Eagles the point. As the Eagles have pulled just to within 2, as Krogstad will be there, as Stark can't quite handle it. And Bridgewater will pull to within 1. A chance for Bridgewater to tie here if they can be able to set up a play to get a point. As Moody is there for Hugh, over to Krogstad, back to Thompson, and it'll be off the hands of Fry. So we are now all tied up at 23 apiece. With Bridgewater has come all the way back to tie this one up at 23. And the Owls have let this game get away from them. As Fry is right there for Ivy, over to Williams, over to Hugh, over to Prevost. As Prevost pokes it in, and the Bridgewater Eagles have now put themselves within a point of taking the 4th and final set of this one. As Bush is tying his shoe and Stark is cleaning up sweat. Bridgewater with a 1-point lead and a chance to take the 4th and final set if they're able to. Krogstad over to Fry, over to Ivy, over to LaPera. Krogstad, Jeffrey, Ivy, over to Stark, over to LaPera. Over to Krogstad, as Provost comes all the way back and puts it in, as Bridgewater comes all the way back to take the lead and win the 4th and final set of this one here in the second match. Bridgewater comes back to take a 3-1 set win here in the second match of the tri-match here in the here in the arena here for Averett. As the Eagles now move to yet another win in the win column. So we're going to take a break here for about half an hour, and we'll be back with the last set of the day between the home Averett University Cougars and the team that just played, the Owls of Warren Wilson College. So we'll be back here on the Averett Sports Network in just a bit.